Hi, everybody. How's it going? Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live from Austin, Texas, where it is sunny. Hey, with a little bit of geoengineered haze just hanging out over the horizon. It is the 9th of January, and we are full steam ahead in 2018. Let's not pump the brakes now, shall we? Wow, what a 24 hours it's been. Every day now, it's the information highway is bursting at the seams. There's always something going on. There's no dead zones in the 24-hour news cycle. Heck no. Feels good to be out of the illness wilderness. I don't get sick that often. Usually, if it does happen, it happens right around this time of year, and God, I remember back in 2013, 2014. I think it was 2013 or 14. I was a mess, man. I had to take like 2 weeks off from the show. It was miserable. But a change in diet and lifestyle will do one wonders. If you have not, now look, not everything works for everybody. There's not a one size fits all for everyone. But if you are an O blood type and a Northern European genotype, I highly recommend divesting of all legumes and grains in your diet. Get them out. Get them out. They don't belong in your body. Especially when you're younger, you can kind of deal with this stuff, provided that vaccines haven't completely wrecked your stomach, lower intestine, and ability to digest. But you can generally deal with this stuff much better when but I look back at when I was young. I used to have terrible, absolutely terrible stomach cramps and stomach pains, and I was really, really plagued by this stuff, like painful, like really, really painful. And, if we had more awareness around diet at that time, it might have been really easy to just understand what was contributing to that intense pain in my stomach, in my lower intestine. Of course, I'm a Virgo, and that's where it's going to show up. But I remember that, and we had the information and the knowledge, and by and large, food was probably more beneficial and helpful and nutritious. Sure, we had pesticides and all that stuff, and clearly it wasn't organic, but I would say that the soil was in a different place, a different state of composition. Now it's in decomposition, and they have to continue to pump the soil with all the fertilizers, which are like steroids, for growing vegetables, especially when we get into the big agra model. I would assume that food was generally better nutritious back then. Generally. But if we had the knowledge back in the 70s about how certain foods and parts of the diet would affect us, it would have changed a lot of people's lives. I was also overweight for a significant part of my youth. I wasn't really fat per se, but I was definitely overweight, and I was a big soda head. I loved soda. I was like, that was my thing. I had my favorite sodas. It wasn't like really Coke or Pepsi. I was more into the esoteric sodas. One of my favorite was one called Apple Beer, which was basically an apple soda. Very hard to find. But I drank a lot of it, and I have no doubt that it contributed to my overweightness. If we just had that awareness a little while ago, I could be playing Major League Baseball. So anyway, we're if you get rid of the glutens, get rid of the lectins. The lectins are part of the legume family, the nightshade family. It's tough. It's tough. You go out to eat, and all of a sudden, the diet shrinks. What's available, the choices that are available, gets real small, especially living in Texas where there's Tex-Mex on every corner. And I rarely met a cheese enchilada or a taco or refried beans that I couldn't turn down. been a major lifestyle change, but it's helped. It's worked, and I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I went through years of back pain, terrible back pain. I mean, I was just, I could barely sit or get up. I dreaded getting up. That's how bad the back pain was. I'd work on my computer, and I go back and forth now. I stand, I sit, I stand, I sit. But I was dreading the back pain. Oh my God. Terrible. And once I got rid of the lectins vis-a-vis the legumes, gone. Just gone. If I'd known that years ago, if I'd known that 10 years ago, it would have saved me an immense amount of grief, physical discomfort, and money spent at a chiropractor. Look, and I think a chiropractor has a use. I really, really do. Chiropractor has, but there are two things that happened for me when it was the two pit stops on the freeway to health, the highway to health. The first one was getting rid of gluten, and I had TMJ for almost all my life. Pop, pop. I mean, hard pop in the jaw. And once I got rid of gluten, mysteriously, the TMJ went away. It was like, see ya, not there anymore. Like, wow, that's kind of amazing. And I'd been to osteopaths and craniosacral therapists, and I mean, I did a lot for that TMJ. And you get minor relief every now and then. But once I got rid of the gluten, bang, it was gone. So I went to go see this chiropractor lately. This was last year, summer of 2017. So I started seeing this chiropractor, and like 2 to 3 times a week, I was on a very aggressive schedule because I just wanted to get my back right, And as I began to get better, as my diet was shifting, this is one of my final visits there. My chiropractor, he's a nice guy. He's a really good guy. He was working on this woman, and he was setting her jaw. He was doing all this jaw stuff with her for the TMJ. And I said, all you got to do is get rid of gluten. That's what happened to me. I don't think he liked my advice. Even if you're a really, really good healer, your goal is to not see somebody. Okay? That's your goal. It's like, I want to get you fixed, up and running, and I don't want to see you again for a long time. I mean, that really should be the goal of a healer. The goal of a healer is not to, hey, come back again and again and again and again. Like, when I do an astrology reading, I don't want to talk to that person that I've done the reading for another 6 months to a year, to be honest with you. If I'm doing coaching with a person, that's a whole different thing. I mean, we're working on something. This is really where it's at, right? We're working on an issue or a couple issues, and when I do the coaching, it's not just astrology. There's other stuff that I do too. But I'm not big into, hey, you gotta get a checkup or a tune-up 3 months from now. Let's look at your chart again and let's check in again. I just don't believe in that model. It's like, I want to give you whatever you need to get you tweaked so you can get back on the highway of your life and start living it in a way that is empowered, meaningful, and sacred to the best of your ability. And that's my philosophy. It's always been my philosophy. And that should be a healer's philosophy. Get people fixed, and then see ya. The recurring, and this is what happens with allopathic medicine. Once you get into the allopathic medicine, hypercube, you're stuck, especially if you're taking drugs, because then you get into all the contraindication and, you've got to have this to take care. It's like, just look at the opioid stuff. If you're taking opioids, guess what? You can't go to the bathroom, so you've got to take another pill to unlock your bowels so you can go to the bathroom. And then once that happens, something else is going to happen in your body, and you got to take another pill in order to deal with that. And of course, there's probably going to be something else that happens. That next thing you know, you're taking 5-6 pills a day. You're getting these prescriptions refilled, and boom, we've got a multi-billion-dollar industry, maybe multi-trillion-dollar industry, and it's not of wellness. And that should be the goal. Just get people tweaked, up and running, and completely allow them to rediscover their wellness. And if you do the right diet, guess what? It'll happen. Trust me, that's my little intro for the day. Take good care of yourself. I was on Truth Cat Radio last night with Shima Moore. We talked astrology. Tonight I'll be on Planet Radio with Randy Muggins and Emily Moore. I don't think you're going to hear the show tonight. I don't think it's not going to air live. Randy will edit it and post it, I think, in the next couple days. So if you have any interest in these things, and I know a lot of people out there's a lot of crossover with Off Planet and my show. So you can check that out from the astrological perspective. I'm going to get into Jeff Sessions' chart tonight. Mr. Capricorn. You can see the little horns coming out of his head. Speaking of Capricorn and David Bowie, whose birthday it was yesterday, David Bowie and I talked about astrology briefly. And we talked about him being a Capricorn. And he said, I can't do Bowie. I'll try. I said, what? There's a time of year where I almost feel like I have horns growing out of the top of my head. It's right around my birthday. He was like, he told me that as he got closer to his birthday, that the frontal lobe in his head would begin to protrude with what looked like little horns coming out of it. And he was dead serious about this. Dead serious. And then the further away he went from his birthday, those little horns would recede back into his head. There's a little Bowie inside baseball for you, just in case you're interested in that sort of thing. Well, what a day it was yesterday. Woo, 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 woo. Where do we start? Well, why don't we start with the headline today, which is regarding Israel, one of my favorite countries in the world. Israel and what they have done to Syria. If you're not following the story here, this is from the Independent. It says Israel attacks Syria with jets and ground-to-ground missiles, claims Syrian army. This is from 4 hours ago. Apparently the Israelis are very pissed off that their private army, their proxy army, the Sand Hessians, known as ISIS, got defeated in Syria. They're not happy about that. It really threw a spanner in their plans for the remapping of the Middle East. Yeah. What is it called? The Hinnon Plan? Is that what it's called? For Greater Israel? Basically for Iran and Syria and Lebanon, parts of Egypt to all become sucked up by Israel. I think it's called the Hinnon Plan. I'm pretty sure about it. Anyway, they're not happy about what happened and the defeat, the inglorious defeat of the ISIS soldiers who went back to Northern Europe. They didn't get a hero's welcome. Too bad. But they did get benefits for fighting against. This is so bizarre. Welcome back. And we're sorry it didn't go well. But guess what? You'll get free rent for the next 2 years. And as many virgins as you can possibly deflower. So here's the story. Israel has attacked several military outposts near Syrian capital with jets and ground-to-ground missiles in an early morning strike, Syria's army said. It's going to be really interesting to see where the UN chimes in on this. In a statement reported by state media, the Assad regime's forces said Israeli jets fired missiles at the Al-Qutayfa area near Damascus from inside Lebanese airspace, and its air defenses hit one of the planes. Israel then fired ground-to-ground rockets from the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights, but the Syrian defenses brought the missiles down, the Syrian army said. It said Israeli jets fired a final barrage of 4 rockets from inside Israel, and the Syrian air defenses brought one down, but the others caused material damage. The Israeli military declined to comment. Last August, the chief of the Israeli Air Force said his forces had struck in Syria around 100 times. There's a war going on here, folks. I mean, there's a war happening. And what has Syria done? What has Syria done to deserve being attacked like this? Israel has pledged to prevent Syrian territory being used for Iran to set up bases. Here we go. or transfer high-quality weaponry to Lebanon's Hezbollah group, which has been helping Damascus beat back a 6-year rebellion. The Russians were doing it. Of course, the Americans would love to claim the victory, which Trump has done, but I'm not sure they've done. I mean, look, maybe they decided to, like a leopard, turn its spots and help out the Russians to beat back ISIS. But remember, ISIS was a creation of the U.S. and Israel and MI6 and Turkey and Saudi Arabia. They all contributed to the ISIS fund and the building of the brand. It's a very strong brand. Not as strong as LeVar Ball's brand, apparently, but close. Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, told ambassadors of NATO countries in Israel the policies had not changed, with a long-standing policy to prevent the transfer of game-changing weapons to Hezbollah from Syrian territory, Mr. Netanyahu said. This policy has not changed. We back it up as necessary with action. The Syrian army statement described the attack as a flagrant Israeli aggression and renewed its warning of the dangerous repercussions of such attacks, holding Israel fully responsible for its consequences. Some Syrian opposition affiliated media reported that the Israeli planes targeted the Syrian army depot, while the Britain-based Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said the depots belonged to both Hezbollah and the Syrian army, adding that the strikes caused a series of explosions and a fire on site, as well as serious material damage. The observatory, which monitors the war in Syria through a network of activists on the ground, so there was no immediate word on any casualties. The exact target of the strikes could not be independently confirmed. Al-Qutayfa is in the northeastern suburbs of Damascus, where Syrian Republican Guard units are known to have major outposts. There we go. The comments, 455 strong, are very interesting. Very, very interesting. And they are not positive toward the Star of David. Let's put it that way. So if you want to read more about it, it's www.independent.co.uk, or just scan the internet and you'll be able to pick up more information on this flagrant strike, this it just boggles the mind, man. And if you look at, it's preemptive. Thank you, I appreciate that. Preemptive strike. I mean, it boggles the mind. I mean, if you look at some of the pictures of, like, Aleppo, Aleppo was at one point in time a really nice place, and it's just shit now. I mean, it was bombed back to the Stone Age. I mean, the Syrians have had just a hell of a time. I mean, I just can't imagine what it would be like to be in that theater, that war theater, for such a long period of time. And really with not a lot of support from the rest of the world. And, of course, there's the Russian support and the fake American support. But it's got to be just an incredibly stark reality. Really, really stark. And if Trump is worth his nuts, he'd go back to his campaign promise to pull us out of these foreign entanglements, which he tweeted about on a fairly frequent basis before he became president of the United States. And if he's playing 5D chess, well, he better make some swift moves here. That's my 2 cents. So what else is happening out there? Have you been tracking the Oprah Winfrey story? Very interesting. Very interesting. Apparently, the British actress Cadine Noble said Tuesday she was head over heels impressed when she first met Harvey Weinstein, at an event in London, because he was hanging out with Naomi Campbell and had megastar Oprah Winfrey swinging off his arm. So here comes Weinstein coming into a party with Oprah and Naomi Campbell. I thought, obviously, this man has something amazing in store for me. Yeah, she's into the power, and he's got the power creds, right? And the richest, likely the richest black woman on the planet on one arm, and a stunning supermodel who probably has her own little cachet of wealth on the other. And when you see something like that, it's like wearing the epaulets of power. Plain and simple, really basic, fundamental power exchange. It's what it is. And she said it during a teary-eyed press conference in Manhattan to discuss sex trafficking lawsuit she filed a day earlier against Weinstein in a Manhattan court. So Cadian Noble has filed a lawsuit against Weinstein. Instead, Weinstein used promises of career advancement to lure the actress to his hotel room in Cannes, France, where he forced himself on her, she said. I felt completely played, she said. Nah, okay, all right, look. I'm going to try to be really, really fair and objective around this thing. Okay. On the one hand, this woman is a grown woman and she is looking to score. I'm sorry. She's looking to score. Like all the other women who gave of themselves, either willingly or unwillingly as an observer to Harvey Weinstein's lewd and perverted actions that were set upon them, taking the shower or whipping out his willy in front of them, whatever it was. These are women who are, they're of age. They're not minors. Although I'm not saying that Harvey Weinstein didn't traffic in minors too. That's probably the story beneath the story. But these are grown women and they're looking to get paid. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. It's the way it is. Now, on the other hand, you have Oprah, who's basically a handler in this moment. She's a handler, she's a fixer, and she's acting as kind of Harvey Weinstein's wing woman and bringing this woman into his fold. So she's an enabler. And she even said, hey, look, this is the business and, this is how you get ahead. I mean, which is kind of a bunch of shit in law. I mean, it's real, but it begins to unmask Oprah because there are women all over the world, primarily in this country, who look at Oprah as an avatar. She's an Aquarius. She has the avatarian qualities. She's successful. She's independent. She built her fortune. She built her empire. She's always got new age people coming through her show, gifts, goodies, tips for living. Oprah is not a brand. Oprah is a religion. Okay, she's a religion. And these women need to redial their adoration and devotion towards Oprah. Whether or not this woman is of age and of her own volition wanted to get ahead. And I mean, look, it is totally naive to go into a situation like that with a guy like Harvey Weinstein, who's a whale shark, a land shark. That's what he is. He's a land shark. It's totally naive to go into a situation like thinking that Harvey Weinstein's just going to be your best pal. And that's it. It's just totally naive. That's not how the world is wired, and that's not how he does business. And if anything, we're getting an owner's manual, an instruction manual about how this shit works. And maybe, just maybe, some woman who is deluded and wants to go to Hollywood and be a big star, and it could be a man too, okay? It doesn't have to be, we don't have to break it down, via binary code, and understand how the game is played. But people will do this, and they've been doing this for years and years and years. I mean, it goes back to silent movies. Are you kidding me? I mean, it goes back a long ways. Look, I told this story before. I knew a guy who was an actor in Hollywood. I don't want to mention his name. His father created a very famous show. And he was kind of a C actor. He had some roles. Showed up on Friends one time, Beverly Hills 90210. This is right around that time. Very funny guy. Very, very funny guy. And he told me the inside baseball, he said, basically, look, if you want a powerful agent in Hollywood, it doesn't matter what sex you are going to bend over. That's it. There's no negotiation. No negotiation. Whether you're Tom Hanks or Salma Hayek, there's no negotiation. You get the agent, and they get you. And that's it. So, are these events going to change the landscape of what people want out of a situation like fame and fortune and all the bullshit that goes along with it? I don't know, maybe. But I think that a lot of people just want to escape their circumstances, and they go after, the golden apple, which is poison on the inside. And this is the way it's been for a long time. And until we reorient our spiritual needs and wants in this world, it's going to happen again and again and again. And unfortunately, also, a number of these young people have come out of situations where they have already been violated. They've already been violated. And so they're being passed along to the next violator and the next abuser. But the abuse starts very, very close to where they are in their lives and in their homes. So they're almost programmed to do it. And that's really, I think, the bottom line here. This is where we're really getting into that nexus point of hell on earth, which is the desecration of innocence. And it's an age-old story. Oh my God! We talked about Stephen Crimmy and Chris 2 weeks ago. We talked about Saturn, the myths of Saturn, which of course there are not many, but one of them is he eats children. And remember, Saturn is the L or the elite, and so there is a topographical instruction manual on some level for the elite. Elite. It will eat you. It will consume you. And you are not electing. One of my favorite movies, Buckaroo Banzai. The Electrons. I love that movie. You know what I love about that movie? Peter Weir's in that movie. And guess what Peter Weir did? He got out of Hollywood. And he became an anthropologist and a professor. Kudos to you, Peter Weir. Kudos. There's some great actors in that movie, by the way. One of my favorite, Clancy Brown. Probably don't know who he is. But he's one of the voices on SpongeBob and Stardust. The Kurgan in Highlander. Let's continue with this little story here. Instead, Weinstein used promises of career advancement to lure the actress to his hotel room in Cannes, France, where he forced himself upon her. She said, "I felt completely played," she said. Noble's the latest on a long line of actresses and models who claim Weinstein either forced himself on them or coerced them into sex with promises of career advancement. It is an ancient story. Mr. Weinstein denies allegations of non-consensual sex. His spokeswoman said Mr. Weinstein has further confirmed that there were never any acts of retaliation against any women for refusing his advances. After meeting Weinstein in London, Noble said she thought nothing of bringing her showreel to his hotel room when she saw him again in Cannes in February. Once inside the hotel room, however, he didn't seem that interested in my showreel. Noble said no, he was looking for a different show. Instead, he began touching her while discussing hooking her up with a modeling agency in London. He said, "I need to know you really like me," Noble said. "I have all the information we need. I just need to know you really like me." The incident ended in the bathroom, where he forced Noble to perform acts in front of the bathroom mirror, she said. After Weinstein failed to help her with her career as promised, she said, she blames him for destroying her acting dreams and said she has since reported her case to the NYPD. We just got to get rid of this Hollywood bullshit in acting. I mean, I like a good movie every now and then. I really do. I love movies. But I'm telling you, this time has come to an end. It is, I mean, all things come to an end at some point. At some point. You know, the great era of like, you know, heavy rock, which I love, with Led Zeppelin and the Rolling Stones and all the bands that came out of the 1970s, both famous and not so famous, that came to an end. Yeah, we have Queens of the Stone Age, whatever, but it's not the same. Everything comes to an end at some point. It does. The National Football League will come to an end at some point. Trust me on this, it will. And what we know as movies will come to an end at some point in time. If you look at the movies that were released in 2017, I think only one movie that is in the top 25 in terms of box office releases and gross and all that stuff was not a sequel or a remake, and it was Dunkirk. That tells you about the state of movies in 2017, and I'm not sure it's going to get any better. Because the movies are formulaic, they keep going to the same, maybe It. Was It a sequel? I think It might have been in the top 25 as well. Anyway, it's all formulaic. People are they're going to get tired of the formula. You know, and how many superheroes can they crank out? How many superhero stories can they crank out? At some point, that's going to become tired as well. And the industry is going to it's going to implode for genuine lack of interest, in my estimation. So this whole idea of actors and actresses is going to go the way of the NFL and professional football players at some point. And when that is, I can't factually say when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen. And I would say it probably happen in the next 10 to 15 years. And it may not be just nobody goes to Hollywood and makes movies anymore, but it's going to be reduced considerably. All right, let's continue with this. Noble's lawsuit claims that Weinstein's practice of luring aspiring actresses to casting couch with promises of career advancement makes him no better than a seedy sex trafficker. Her lawyer, Jeff Herman, said he is hoping for millions of dollars in damages. The jury will decide what they think her damages call for. Herman said at the same press conference was significant. He said it will go into the millions of dollars. Now, Oprah is a central figure around this, and apparently NBC tweeted out that she should be the next president of the United States. I think that presidential run ended as quickly as it started yesterday when this story came out. Now, this story will make Oprah radioactive. And she's already explaining herself. And by the way, that was a tweet from the NBC Twitter account, and it's since been deleted. So they've already removed their support for Oprah because of what Oprah said. And Oprah said what I just said, okay? She just said that, yeah, you know, this is the business, this is what happens. She was very frank because she knows. She's had her own part to play. She's been down that path. She's done the rituals. She's done the underground parties. She's done the degradation. And she's been rewarded handsomely. And she delivers constantly. She delivers constantly for her masters. Yeah, that's right, masters. But she went, I believe, a step too far because this is a very sensitive issue. Highly, highly sensitive issue. Highly sensitive. On the one hand, you have people making choices, and they're old enough to make choices. On the other hand, you have a level of coercion, and you have a level of enabling that promotes this agenda. So you walk the line and you say, okay, you know, we have adults here, but we also have a system in place, and it's been in place for a long time, that is predatory and filled with coyotes traffickers, enablers. And this gets us to where the QAnon material is. This is where it begins to get interesting. I was looking at a flight log yesterday, flights going into Gitmo. Wow, a lot. Leaving places like Miami, Fort Lauderdale. I'm flying into Gitmo. What is going on in Gitmo? Who are they dropping off in Gitmo? I was also looking at a list of CEOs who have stepped down over the course of the last 3 months or so, I think 4 or 5 months, and the list is prodigious, big time. And Eric Schmidt's one of them. And of course, Eric Schmidt is a central figure in all this. Once that executive order was signed by Trump, I think it was like the next day, Eric Schmidt stepped down from Alpha. And it's, you guys are smart. You guys are following all this stuff. And Eric Schmidt apparently was deeply involved in the Hillary Clinton campaign and providing all kinds of computer intelligence and anything that was basically needed to get her elected. And of course, there's probably some monkey business and shenanigans. He just stepped down. And Schmidt has apparently an open relationship with his wife, which allows him to philander and do whatever he does and has done. So he can't Matt Lauer him because he's married. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But this is this is it. We are living in a 24/7 news cycle that's just mind-blowing. Absolutely I don't have any problem finding something to talk about every morning. I just wake up and I cruise around and go, oh, look at this, holy Moses. So we have an attack on Syria by Israel. We have Oprah Winfrey admitting to some degree that she is a co-trafficker and an enabler, and her being kind of cut down by NBC in a tweet once they tweeted out that she should be the next president of the United States. That all happened like that. And now we have this decision with the Bundys, which I wanted to talk about. And so where was this, about 3 or 4 years ago, when the whole Bundy Ranch thing came down, and the BLM, who had a relation, the Bundys have owned this land in Nevada for a very long time. They've got cattle there. And apparently there was this thing that came up with the desert tortoise, and all of a sudden their cattle and their land was an ecological threat to the desert tortoise. They do this stuff all the time. They did it with the spotted owl. That was the whole spotted owl thing up in the Pacific Northwest. Anyway, here we go. Spotted owl 2.0. It's the desert tortoise. So what happened is that the BLM decided they were going to shut it down. They've been harassing the Bundys for quite a long time already, going on their land, killing their cattle. This is an open range warfare between the BLM and a family who owns a bunch of land in an area where, if you look at the map of the United States, the BLM and the government owns, I would say about 3/4 of the land west of Texas. It's all, if it's all the open spaces, 3/4 of it is probably owned by the federal government, and they were encroaching and wanting to get more. So they did that, and the Bundys fired back. They'd had enough, and so there was this open range warfare. They were occupied. You remember that whole thing? It was a big standoff. Anyway, went to jail. Went to trial. And finally, the trial ended yesterday for the second time. The first time there was a mistrial, and yesterday, you got to hand it to the judge who presided over this trial, who understood that there was levels of corruption that were so deep inside the federal government, in basically taking away these people's rights, their land, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So they won. The Bundys have been vindicated. They get to keep their land. But think of all the money they had to spend to defend themselves, the time, the agony, and the suffering that they went through. Of course, you have the Finicum case up in Oregon, who I believe are related to the Bundys, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think they are. It's another example of what's been going on with the BLM. And here we go. One day, the Bundys get off. Finally, they can't retry the case. It's done. It's over. It's done. But you listen to those people, and they are weary. And I think that's kind of the song of the planet. There are a lot of weary people out there. Tired of being harassed by the system. They're tired. There's a lot going on out there. Bundys, Israel Tax Syria, Oprah, Weinstein, Gitmo, flights going in, lots of them, and it's only 9 days into January. These are pretty amazing times. Pretty amazing. They are chaotic. They are discordant. There's this idea that Trump and the alt-right are part of the discordia, the cult of discordia and chaos magic. Could be. Absolutely could. I'm not opposed to it, to be honest with you. I'm not opposed to it. I've got a Uranus and Jupiter trine in my chart. I'm just fine with Uranus and chaos. I'm better at chaos than order in a lot of ways. But we're seeing things become dismantled before our very eyes. And some of it is actually good, and some of it's not going to be good. Some of you are going to say, well, why is this happening? Why is this existing? Why is this taking place? And with the Capricornian stuff, man, I'm telling you, taking a 40,000 foot view is going to be sort of the best vantage point. If you can be that goat on top of the mountain and look down on everything, that's your preferred place. That's your safe space. Let me just check in here, see if there's any comments today. No comments today. You're always welcome to comment. You're always welcome to comment. All right. I think that's it. We covered a lot of ground, I think, don't you? In 43 minutes and 24 seconds. All right, why don't we stop there for now, for today. And I'll be on Off Planet. Look for that show to probably pop in 48 hours or so. And that's about it. So everybody out there knows the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. Thank you, as always, for listening in. And we keep on moving. Don't stop.